Hello everyone. The focus of this conversation is to talk about a very interesting article that came out from USA Today. And then later towards the end of this video, I want to discuss who I think is the face of women's track and field and share my thoughts on why. But before I start, I want to give a very quick update on Sha'carri Richardson. I am going to minimize the amount of exposure I'm giving to this young lady moving forward on my channel. She is attention grabbing to say the least, but after reading a lot of your comments, I don't think she deserves this amount of coverage that she is currently getting. In my last video, she did not attend the EdMurphey Classic, and her behavior off the track has been questionable by a lot of people. Until she comes back to track and field, she really belongs in soap opera entertainment. And if you watch this recent video I made, there are social channels out there that will just eat that stuff up already. And she is doing very well on that side of the platform. And these social channels are doing a great job at it. She is easy for clicks, but it's hard to see how that brand is helpful to track and field as an international brand and on my channel. Most of you guys, I'd say about 98% agree that she needs to improve herself. So until she shows up to work and runs below 11 seconds in the 100 meters, I will minimize the conversation here. It also takes away coverage from other athletes who deserve the attention. And there are other countless athletes out there who don't get the spotlight. And they are more deserving of it in my personal opinion. And one of my biggest fears is that her behavior might give people and even athletes the idea that it's okay to act up outside of track and field for attention. And I do not want to take part in that culture that incentivizes it. With that said, let's begin. The title of this article is Star Power, Rivalries, and What Do You Know? Villains. Track races to grow in popularity in the United States. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but if you are in America and really into track and field, then it is worth it. I'll leave a link to the article in the description, and to give you some context, this article is talking about the impact and lessons learned from the World Athletics Oregon 2022. Let me read this part to you and provide my commentary. On the first night of the 2022 Track and Field World Championships here at Haywood Field, American shot putting superstar RyanCrouser was asked by a reporter about waning interest in the sport, particularly in the United States. I'm from the Netherlands, the reporter explained, and I'm really surprised there aren't 20 American journalists breathing down my neck. Now let me stop right there. These are my thoughts, but I think interest has waned for many reasons due to competition from other sports. You have football season in the fall, followed by basketball season, and then it bleeds into baseball. So where exactly do you put track and field to retain and capture viewing audiences at large capacities needed for it to be successful? And if you went to a large public university in America, then you understand most of the focus and money goes into football and basketball anyway. Just look at the NCAA and how much coaches get paid. Now, I don't know if it's intentional to begin with, but these are the biggest sports in America that fans gravitate to. And your professional counterparts like the NFL and NBA have already invested billions of dollars into your franchise, players, television ads, athletes, customers, and brands to make sure they keep coming back, but most importantly, spending money. And I think that coughing sickness that I can't really say impacted viewership even more, as well as the politics around it. But let's read on. This article goes on to say, the implication was clear. Why isn't track and field as popular in the United States as it is around the world? Didn't the US know that there were 2,000 athletes performing, and they took home about 33 gold medals, the most in a single country? This was the most watched track and field event on the network in 18 years, and just the 5th most watched sports program of the weekend. I think this reporter asking these questions to Ryan is doing an excellent job here. One of the reasons I can think as to why track and field are more popular overseas is that it gives people the opportunity in second and third world countries to compete on the international stage for fame and also money. Your local professional teams might not have deep pockets for people to participate in local clubs to make a decent living out of it. Like they may have a local organization for soccer or for netball, for example. Anyway, there are a lot of people that have ties to Cuba that come to America just for professional baseball. At least when I was in Arizona and in parts of Florida and Texas, talking to some of them. And there are a few kids that are recruited for soccer and basketball as well to come from second and third world countries over to the United States. Now let's go back into the area of interest within this article. It reads, "We have to fix this. We don't have a choice," said AtoBoldon, NBC's lead track and field analyst and a 4-time Olympic medalist. "We have to do everything we can to get more people interested in this sport. We as broadcasters have our job to do. Athletes have their jobs, but the administrators really have the job. They have to capitalize on this world championship and make it into something other than just a little spike in the graph." AtoBoldon goes on further to say, "We don't have any Darth Vaders." I think that is interesting. I like how Bolden uses the term Darth Vader. You know, the bad guy from Star Wars? A Darth Vader would be a rival. He goes on to say, "For nearly 2 decades, the sport's most recognizable U.S. faces has been AllysonFelix, the 11-time Olympic medalist. And RyanCrouser is the best shot putter in the history of track and field. He's also a nerd. Yet experts say the trick for the sports leaders won't be celebrating these accomplishments. It will be keeping those athletes in the headlines between now and the next Olympics in Paris in 2024. Then DavidCarter, a professor of sports business at USC and founder of the Sports Business Group, says the following: "They have got to be relevant off the track and on an ongoing basis. They can't simply train well, make a team, excel, stand on the podium for the anthem, and then we don't hear them again until it's time to prepare for the Olympic trials." I want you guys to tell me what these 3 last statements mean. In a nice way, I think the point they are trying to make is, since there are not really any rivalries, meaning villains that stand out between AllysonFelix and RyanCrouser, for example, things are boring. So my question is, how do we create the appropriate Darth Vader archetype? Because we know it's hard to sell boring. I think what we need to do is have more competitions in the United States like American football and basketball, because waiting another 2 to 4 years to see these athletes back is now a lifetime in the world of social media. We are in a world where people's attention span is so short, and with this new class of athletes, it's possible to end up being a one-hit wonder. The majority are not making millions of dollars like UsainBolt, Sydney, or even getting paid what Abby Steiner is getting. And I think Abby Steiner's actually underpaid based on the metrics, but that's for another totally different conversation. Most of these athletes also have several side gigs or hold full-time jobs. I knew of one guy who was driving Uber and doing side modeling jobs while I was in Denver. And I am not saying one-hit wonders can happen, but it is absolutely likely. The sport needs something for both the fans and athletes to be engaged in. It gives the athletes a reason to show up to work and for the fans to continue supporting them. And though NBC Sports helped increase viewership during these events, new media is catching up, as we saw them take up to 35% of the views. And you can refer to that video I made right here. I think we are witnessing viral marketing before our eyes. New media is able to bring different perspectives to the sport, including audiences. Some have a constructive approach, while some are more critical. It is this melting pot of noise that turned this past event into the most watched track and field event on NBC Sports in 18 years, from what I am observing and what reporters have said as well. And I am not yet done with the Darth Vader spiel. I know there are 5 people out there who might say that it sounds like Shar'CarriRichardson fits that archetype of a villain, but let me stop you right there. I gotta stop you. A Darth Vader is an accomplished villain. The villains this article is talking about are your rivals that actually qualify, and they are able to compete, and lastly, they are fast. For example, let us go back to the outdoor championships that took place in June, where there seemed to be a rivalry between Noah and recent high school grad ErriyonKnighton, where Noah chased down Erriyon before surging ahead of him to win. And after crossing the finish line, what does Noah do? Noah screams and points to the clock, though some believed he was pointing to Erriyon at the time. Now that is a great example. 2 people who are rivals, they have qualified, and there is massive clout of social media presence around them. Others include Ben Johnson and Carl Lewis from the past when track and field was at its peak. But that is technically controversial since it was muddled with doping scandals and so many other nonsense. But what interesting villains do you guys recall from the past, and it could be any sport? Feel free to let me know down below. And the last point that I want to emphasize that this article touched on is social media. Let's read some of the stuff that they have to say. Bolden also goes on to say that social media can help create stories for the sport. Almost everyone and outside of the sport is in agreement about one thing at least. If track stars are to become US sports stars, they will have to work to sell their own stories and help viewers understand there's more to them than running fast, jumping high, or throwing far. Now folks, this part is interesting about the ability to create stories and narratives, but I also want to add what KaraGoucher, who is a former Olympian in the long distance, who now works as an NBC analyst, had to say. She is sympathetic to athletes who want to block out distractions like social media before big events. And we saw that recently with Abby Steiner and post events with Kemba. But Kara also says there's a push-pull that athletes have to understand. This is what Kara says. People eat that stuff up. Let me repeat that statement because it's very important. People eat that stuff up. And Kara is right. This year already seemed like a soap opera. However, for people to eat that stuff up, I think they have to like what they are eating, or they will spit it back out like a toddler. I believe it first starts with finding someone that they can relate to, like an Abby Steiner, Shelly, or Noah. And you know what? For some, even Shar'CarriRichardson. I still have people commenting on my Sha'carri video that I put out about a month ago, and it's only 44 seconds long. I honestly didn't think that it would last this long, but it shows you the power of relatability. And like every story, for example, Shar'CarriRichardson, based on my qualitative assessments from reading through comments, few people are waiting for that comeback story. That would make people eat that stuff even more because people love that. Now I want to transition over to another subject. And as promised, who do you think is the face of women's track and field? Before I start, I want to say that there might be a difference between a face and a leader. Is the face Abby Steiner, Sydney, or someone else on a team? My thoughts are as below. It is everyone that can lead your respective events. Sydney is much better at her races as well as Abby. They have their respective audiences, and numbers never lie, but they do tell a story. Abby has clearly brought more attention to the sport in America, and Sydney breaks records. I feel that they are both faces in your own respective areas. But how about as a leader? If you did not know, Abby and Sydney are the same age. Yes, they are both 22 years old as of the time of me making this video. I think what stands out with Sydney's personality, especially if you hear her speak, is that she has that take charge, no nonsense personality. She sounds stoic like a police officer or general, so I'd characterize Sydney as having that warrior personality. Abby's more of a negotiator style, and retired athlete AllysonFelix was exemplified as a peacemaker, at least to me. These are what I have gathered as my thoughts and opinions of each person. A stoic, if you do not know the definition, is someone who can endure pain or hardship without showing your feelings or emotion. And a person who is stoic in personality is not going to tolerate nonsense around like a Shar'CarriRichardson type of personality because they need to focus on winning. I could almost see conflicts if you ever put those two, Sha'carri and Sydney, in the same room together. Team dynamics are very important and they can make winners and losers. But let me know what you think. Who do you think is the face of women's track and field? Is having a leader also important? And does track and field really need a face? Or maybe it's too early to have this discussion. Let's give it some time. I want to leave you guys with these words. Sport encourages ongoing education in skill and personal development. People who learn how to perform better also learn how to be better teammates. They work to get the most out of your experience. Have a great day. Hey you, if you want to hear more about my thoughts on legacy media as it relates to track and field, then click on the playlist on the top left. For Abby Steiner, it is on the bottom left. For teeteeterry, it is on the top right. Have a great day.